Isitwalandwe, which in Sotho would mean Siaparangwe, was traditionally a hero who had been decorated with the feathers of the bird Ingwe, the blue crane. This was a most beautiful but very rare bird, very difficult to find. And its plumes, which were gorgeous, were used to decorate those who had the rare quality of distinction in service, especially those who had distinguished themselves heroically in times of war and otherwise in society. It was awarded to Yusuf Dadu, to Bishop, then Father Huddleston, and to the President General of the African National Congress, Chief A.J. Luthuli. These were, at that time and since, distinguished leaders who had rendered magnificent service to our people. It so happened that although they won this award by virtue of their individual performance, in fact, they represented a cross-section of the people of South Africa and reflected the unity in which the African National Congress believed so much in.
It can undoubtedly be said that it was to date a very significant landmark in the struggle for national liberation and social emancipation of our people. It, I think, marked the highest development in the unity in struggle of all the national groups, African, colored, Indian, and including white Democrats who subscribed to the policy of the African National Congress. The major national organizations of the people were involved in it. The ANC, South African Indian Congress, the South African Congress of People's Organization, Colored People's Organization, and the South African Congress of Democrats. And of course later on, when SACTU was formed, the South African Congress of Trade Union, it also was involved actively in this whole campaign of for the Congress of the People. The eventual outcome of the decisions of this COP was the now well-known Freedom Charter.
The unity call has persisted throughout the struggle of the African National Congress. It found increased expression in 1952 when we called for the defiance of unjust laws by the oppressed. That defiance campaign, which was a reaction to the vicious policies of the newly proclaimed apartheid regime, drew the support not only of the non-whites, as we called them at the time, but it attracted the support of genuine Democrats among the white population, among the voters. It was intended to do that. From this great victory in which the population of South Africa had been aroused in unity, we moved to a call for a Congress of the people. All people then assembled in Kliptown for the Congress of the people.
To bring about this unity was not an easy task, especially in the conditions of South Africa, with a racist regime in power all the time, trying to create divisions among the people, keeping them apart. Of course, now it's apartheid. It was segregation in the old days, before the nationalists came into power. But whatever it was a question of the super exploitation of the black people as a labor force to bring about the highest profit for the industrialists, for the mine magnates, and so on. So it was a very difficult task indeed to bring about, to create this awareness of the absolute necessity for unity in action of all the oppressed people.
It was very important for us to be able to try to draw the colored community closer to the mass movement of the African people. This is something which is crucial for the colored people, particularly. I was the secretary of the Colored People's Congress, and when we were able to take the South African Colored People's Organization into Congress of the People, it meant a very big step forward for the community.
In the Indian Congress, we had to fight very hard. We had to fight hard to bring in all sections of the Indian people, the workers, trade unionists, teachers, all, sportsmen, in order to create a really genuine national organization of the people representing the interests of the community as a whole.
I myself was working at the Rand Steam Laundry in Johannesburg. And one of the things that we had to do was to organize the workers and to acquaint to them exactly what the Congress of the People is about. For an example, what are these sufferings that we're talking about? The first problem that is facing an ordinary worker is the pass laws. Every time when he leaves his home, he's expected to be arrested on his way to go to work. In the evening when he leaves, or during lunchtime, he can be arrested at any time. Generally, if he has to look for a job, he has to get a permit. When he looks for a house, he has to get a permit. All these things combined together, they are a cancer in the mind of an ordinary worker. Now that is why, when they hear about the Congress of the People, they're so excited.
in order to achieve the objective of this Congress of the People, it was necessary that all the section of the people should be interviewed, be organized, so that they can then bring their demands. The Congress of the People organizers and the leadership, in fact, had invited, apart from the ordinary masses, had invited all organizations in South Africa, including, for that matter, the Nationalist Party of Dr. Malan and the United Party. They were also invited to attend. But of course, they feared to present themselves to the masses. They never attended. There was also the question of organizing rural areas, farm laborers. Not only the rural areas and the farms, the factories, the mines. Although the South African laws do not allow mine workers to be organized, but in this instance, the organizers of the Congress of the People made it absolutely clear that at least they were going to organize the mines. And the workers in the mines were contacted, and their demands were also recorded. And therefore, insofar as the organization of the Congress of the People was concerned, insofar as we absolutely felt that at least we have covered the length and the breadth of South Africa.
I myself was a delegate from the Congress of Democrats. The Congress of Democrats represented the whites who were prepared to stand side by side with the other liberation movements. The slogan of the Congress of the People was a delegate from every town, every suburb, and every village. And of course there were even more than that, because the factories elected delegates, and every little group of people, everywhere that one had a meeting, people put forward their demands, which were to be incorporated in the Freedom Charter. And these were then sent up to head office in Johannesburg. And people mainly, their main demand, their biggest demand was against the pass laws, because it was at this time that the government was trying to extend them to African women as well. And it was the biggest gripe, as it still is in South Africa. And besides the pass laws, there was Bantu education, which had been introduced a few years earlier. There was high rents. There were all the different things, forced removals, many different issues that affected the people.
Our aim was to get the demands of the people of Soweto of how they would like to live in South Africa. At that time, our campaign was to mobilize women to resist against the pass laws. And of course we got tremendous support from women in particular, because they knew already the sufferings of pass laws. Many women had their husbands arrested, their sons arrested, and some of them had their sons or husbands dying in the farm labor camps only because of having been arrested for a pass. But at the same time, we had also to campaign against the removal that was to take place, that was the removal of the western areas by the Nationalist Party. This campaign brought in many leading figures around Soweto town. And I would mention Father Trevor Huddleston, who really led the campaign against this removal. Father Huddleston was loved by many of us in Sophiatown because during his stay in Sophiatown, he had the love for the people of Sophiatown. And during the removal, he was also going from street to street, talking to people, calming people down.
These were people that were absolutely part of me and were my flock, and nobody could stop me because I had a real position of authority in terms of the church. In those days, of course, we were virtually the only whites anyhow living in Sophiatown. There was a small Roman Catholic mission down the road, but there we were. And of course then the removal scheme started, and we really went to town on that one because we were able to rally a great deal of support, I mean tremendous lot of support really. And then of course when the bulldozers came in and the police came in and so on, then it was necessary really to oppose it face to face.
There was excitement, jubilation. There was ululation of women singing of freedom songs. Cliptown became a different place. Everywhere you looked, there were black faces, brown, white faces. It was really a place in which the fate of South Africa was going to be decided.
Well, June the 25th, 1955 is one of the most memorable days in my life, I think, because it's one of the most memorable days in the history of South Africa. And it was a day which became something like everybody's birthday. Everybody wanted to be there. They wanted to see what was happening, how it was going to happen, and what action the police would take, if any, what our reaction would be. It was just the most marvelous occasion. It's something that I've always been able to look back on with great pride and also with great joy.
I remember that when we got to the Congress of the People, we were in our hundreds because we were the mostly affected people around western areas. And we came in busloads, and hundreds of us were carrying placards and singing and carrying the African National Congress flag. And of course our demands were included. And to us this meant a lot, because here we were a community which was threatened with houses being demolished, schools being closed. This is how we saw the Congress of the People.
The Bethel delegation was absolutely very colorful and exciting, because you see they came from a terrible area in the Transvaal, as you know. Bethel is known for its brutality against the African workers, African prisoners who were arrested in Johannesburg or all over the reef for past laws, and they were sold to the farmers. And then these chaps, they were people who live in that area and have to work in that area. So they formed one of the most powerful delegations. Very exciting indeed.
It was a marvelous day, sunny afternoon, and we were getting rumors that trains were being stopped by the police and various other hold-ups were taking place, and nobody quite knew how many people would turn up, in fact, because there was no way of knowing. And it was just like Derby Day, not that I've ever been to Derby Day, but it was a most incredibly colourful occasion with banners and all that, you know, and of course the inevitable presence of the special branch and police dotted around the place. For me, of course, the whole situation on that day when the Isitwalandwe award was being made is tremendously evocative still, because I can see it all so clearly. I remember standing on a wagon of some sort and making the speeches from the wagon. And of course the great thing that one was waiting for were the two other recipients of the Isitwalandwe award. I hadn't known anything about this until very close up to the time. Of course the chief, Lutuli, and Dadu. And I was hoping very much to be there with them, because I knew Dadu. I didn't really know Albert Lutuli very well, because I was based on Johannesburg, he was based in Durban. And so we were all looking forward to this, and then of course the news came through that there was no way of getting them there. So I was the only person actually to receive the award, and naturally for me it is something totally unique, which I've kept carefully all through the years. Isitwalandwe is a designation that I must say I very greatly prize and honor.
When the police came, they invaded the ground and they arrested a number of us. And other people arrested for passes, others were arrested for various things. They were trying to interfere with proceedings. I must say that, you know, that was the time when the spirit of our people was very, very high. Very, very high indeed. Discipline was very strong. Otherwise, had it not been of that, we could have had very serious clashes between our people and the police. Because some people were trying to provoke this, but we prevented that. We managed to control it.
I was involved, together with a few others who were drawn from the other members of the Congress Alliance, at the work at the credentials tables. Our task was to register and record all the delegates as they came in. Of course, it wasn't a particularly easy task because, as the record goes, more than 3,000 delegates attended the Congress, and each and every one of them had to pass through us. Now, as is known, of course, on the day, they raided, naturally, as they were surrounding the place, they came to us with the hope of collecting whatever material there was for themselves. They found very little, because they say we ourselves were very careful, because we're always expecting this type of raid. And this was the first time, literally, that those of us who were working at the Congress credentials tables actually got the opportunity of attending the Congress itself, because a different set of credentials officials had taken over, actually set up their own tables, and had started the process of recording people's names. But this set of credentials officials was not the friendly type, but composed, of the police.
The police surrounded everybody and decided that the Congress must disperse. But the work of the Congress was completed long before the police came. We had achieved what we wanted.
Now, this Freedom Charter enshrines in its clauses the aspirations of all sections, of all strata of the people of South Africa, black and white. Whether it be mine workers or rural workers, farm laborers, small peasants, workers in industry, in the factories, all had, whether you are intellectuals, teachers, professional men, small businessmen, and even some bigger commercial men among the black people, that the clauses of the Freedom Charter enshrine in it their aspirations for a free, democratic South Africa, which will bring to an end, absolute end, racialism and racial oppression. That is what the Freedom Charter stands for. And that document is as valid today as it has been when it was adopted in 1955.
It was June 26 at about 4 o'clock when actually the people adopted the Freedom Charter. The South African police, the army, converged and surrounded the people, the Congress. And of course, as usual, our people were calm, dignified. The fascist police came, surrounded the whole area, and of course, they were carrying guns, weapons. They moved towards the platform and they cocked their guns. The people started singing liberation songs. And of course, at this time, you cannot avoid to remember some of the gallant activists, workers of the African National Congress. I've got in mind here great women like Ida Mtwana, when the police came, she started a song, and the whole Congress joined in.
We, the people of South Africa, declare for all our country and the world to know that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and that no government can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of all the people. That our people have been robbed of their birthright to land, liberty, and peace by a form of government founded on injustice and inequality. That our country will never be prosperous or free until all our people live in a brotherhood, enjoying equal rights and equal opportunities. That only a democratic state, based on the will of all the people, can secure to all their birthrights without distinction of color, race, sex, or beliefs. And therefore, we the people of South Africa, black and white together, equals countrymen and brothers, adopt this Freedom Charter, and we pledge ourselves to strive together, sparing neither strength nor courage, until the democratic changes set out here have been won. The doors of learning and culture shall be opened. The government shall discover, develop, and encourage national talent for the enhancement of our cultural life. There shall be houses, security, and comfort. All people shall have the right to live where they choose, to be decently housed, and to bring up their families in comfort and security. There shall be peace and friendship. South Africa shall be a fully independent state which respects the rights and sovereignty of nations. Let all who love their people and their country say now, as we say here, these freedoms we shall fight for side by side throughout our lives until we have won our liberty. The Freedom Charter is a very significant document in our struggle, in that it was not imposed on the people by a few office bearers of any organization, but it was a document which was drawn by the people themselves, and it embodies the aspirations of the people themselves. The principles which we fought for in 1976 and which we're still fighting for now, if we look back the history of our struggle and see where they originated, we can see clearly that they originated also in the Freedom Charter, because the Freedom Charter rejects the Bantustans, though at the time they were not actually in practice. It talks about freedom of education, housing, freedom to work, to stay where you like, and all these ideas were originated in the Freedom Charter, but are now being carried on by people who may consciously or not consciously be aware that they are taking those ideas from the Freedom Charter.
As usual, a knock was heard at my door at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And this was not a surprise at all, because it is the usual thing for Africans in South Africa. And then, of course, I went to the door, opened the door, and here confronted with a uniform, police, because usually it is a special branch, but there were 6 of them, and 2 of the political police in South Africa. And then they said, well, Archie, we've come to arrest you. What do you mean by that? Arrest me? Yes. And then they submitted a document. There is a big thing to me, you see. Treason trial. I said, God, what the hell is that? Well, I called my wife and said, there's something amazing here, treason trial, you see. And I don't understand it, you see. It's amazing indeed. And everybody was surprised, and there was a commotion in the room because, well, we accept the raids as a daily thing, but when it's a treason trial, then it means a complete different thing altogether, you see.
In December 1956, the South African Congress of Trade Unions, SECTU, was only 15 months old. It was the only multiracial trade union federation in South Africa. And of course it was a signatory to the Freedom Charter. Now, we came to work between 8:30 and 9 on the morning of the 6th to be greeted by the African cleaner in tears. And he said, there's big trouble. This was the first we knew about it. And he told us that the police had come with our president and general secretary, both of whom had been arrested. And we found a note afterwards in a typewriter from our president saying, please cancel this afternoon's meeting. I've been arrested on a charge of high treason.
I was travelling in a train north, to the north of England, to take a meeting, and read in the evening paper that I think it was something like 156 people. I'm not good on numbers, but I think it was 156 people, all the leadership of the ANC, white as well as black, had been arrested and were on a charge of such a nature that they obviously were asking for the death penalty. And so I felt so moved by this that as soon as I had an opportunity, I sent a telegram to Ambrose Reeves, whom I knew to be very much concerned in this thing and a friend of the ANC. And so I sent a telegram to say that I will send you tomorrow a gift as an earnest of my intention to see that we help you to defend this trial to its end. So please feel free to get the best barristers that you possibly can. And I sent as a token, which has a certain joke to it, £100. That's all I had to send. Then we collected money. And to my astonishment, it poured in. I didn't think it would. I thought I'd have a terrible job to get it, but it poured in.
I think the most difficult thing for people to understand, because the whole situation has been hitting the headlines for so many years now, is that at that time, 25 years ago, or nearly 25 years ago, it was a terrific job to arouse any kind of public opinion in Britain. The first meeting I addressed in the Central Hall, Westminster, after my return, was a massive meeting organized by John Collins, and I've never forgotten John making the appeal for what became the Defence and Aid Fund.
I think it would be difficult to describe the relief with which we heard that there was going to be a treason trial fund. It wasn't only going to provide legal defence and the very best legal defence for all these people, but was also going to look after the families. And from my experience, I know that if this hadn't been done, many of the families would have perished.
And then, of course, we're all transferred into the main cell in the prison. There you've got religious leaders, we've got the lawyers, you've got the doctors, you've got the working people of South Africa represented and so on. You've got the Indian community represented, you've got the colored community represented there, you've got the whites in South Africa represented, you see. It was a proper parliament of South Africa. It exactly looked like what it should be in South Africa when that country is free. All our people were presented in their proper ratio in South Africa.
It's the being on one's own which is difficult to cope with, but once you've got people who are around you, then you draw strength from them and they draw strength from you, and things are much better. Outside there was a tremendous demonstration of people who had placards which read, "Stand by your leaders." And of course this was one thing that the government didn't count on. The government had made these arrests in order to ginger up a tremendous fear of what was going to happen. These terrible people who were trying to change South Africa from what it was into something that was to be feared. And it just boomeranged on them, it rebounded on them.
On each occasion that the prisoners were carried in the pickup vans from the jail to the courtroom, or from the courtroom to the jail, you'd get thousands upon thousands of people massing around the vans, beating on the sides of the van with stones, sticks, fists. And I remember looking at these policemen, the warders and policemen with us in the van, and this uncertainty on their face, this fear, in fact. They were frightened. They didn't know what people would do. And the tremendous confidence which our people, inside and outside, had, the communication, the contact which had. We were touching people's hands as we leaned out of the bars of the van.
Needless to say, I was one of the accused, arrested in the small hours of the morning, locked up at what we called number 4, just about a week or so before I was due to get married. Indeed, while in jail, we took steps to prepare for the marriage to take place in prison. But if the Congress of the People had not united the people of South Africa in their opposition to this regime, certainly the arrest of these leaders did so.
Then in court itself, the first day, there was a confusion there, you see. And they couldn't control the massive gathering of our people. They went inside, the fences were flattened, and we got confused with everybody, and so on. Well, because we were disciplined, you see. You know, we didn't want to just run away, you see. I mean, we said we were prepared. This is a political case we've got to face. We're not being tried there as individuals. We're tried there as a Congress movement, you see. So Chief Luthuli said that nobody must, you know, disappear here. Let's stay here, and so on, and get on with it, you see, and so on, and present our case to the world, you see. Because there, you see, we're trying in reverse the system, the apartheid system in South Africa.
Among the accused were African lawyers who, during the latter phases of the treason trial, took over the defense. Nelson Mandela, the late Duma Nokwe, and others. Because that was the type of person who had abandoned their practices, a possible future and relative comfort, and decided to go to jail if needs be, to be sentenced to life imprisonment if needs be, even to be killed if needs be, for the sake of a future South Africa as elaborated and as envisaged in the Freedom Charter adopted in Kliptown.
And the day of the trial coming to an end, we saw what I cannot explain to you with words. It's very difficult indeed. The excitement, the carrying of our lawyers, you see, up the air, the singing that took place there, see, was tremendous indeed. You feel through you that you can go anywhere that the Congress says you should go. You do anything. People were great indeed.
While the African National Congress was able to operate in South Africa legally, openly, it achieved a unification of the people of South Africa, mutual understanding. It created out of the people of South Africa one nation in one country with one leader. It was a recognition of this great leadership which drew the attention of the international community to the great prominence of Chief Luthuli, resulting in his being awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for 1960. The banning of the African National Congress, the banning of Albert Chief Luthuli, the banning of all the leaders, that was an opportunity lost. Indeed, the violence that followed 1959, Sharpeville, more arrests of people who were remotely associated with politics. Some of them had participated 15 years earlier, but not since. They're all locked up. In doing so, the South African government was consolidating a new level of resistance to its criminal policies, a level which embraced armed conflict. They created that. They forced us into it. And now we are in this era. I'm afraid they have not yet learned their lesson. But the Freedom Charter is there. It was vindicated by the discharge of the accused in the treason trial. It was shown that our movement was in the interests of the future of the people of South Africa. Since then, we have had the Soweto massacre, also followed by the bannings of organizations. In all this, a new unity is being consolidated, greater determination. Today, we are calling for the unity not only of the people of South Africa, of all races and colors, but indeed there is a unity of the people of Southern Africa. There is even a unity of the people of all Africa, a unity of the world community in its opposition to the apartheid regime. We surely cannot lose this war.
Hamba kahle mkhonto, wemkhonto Tina Babamkondo Sisnisele, Ukuwabulala, Wana Amabulu. Tina Babamkondo Sisnisele, Ukuwabulala, Wana